Hey everybody, welcome to the latest episode of The Rock Experience with Mike Brunn. On this episode, I welcome back Steve Whiteman from KIX, and he'll talk all about his new upcoming solo CD, You're Welcome. I'm really excited to have Steve back on the show, and I think you guys are going to really enjoy this album, as well as enjoy hearing some of the stories he shares about the record. Alrighty, why don't we jump in and let's get started. Steve, I want to start off by saying thank you for joining me again on my podcast.
You're welcome.
All righty, very good. Obviously, that's reference to the new solo CD that's coming out for Steve Whiteman, July 2nd, titled You're Welcome. Steve, when did you start doing that whole stage bit saying thank you and having the fans say you're welcome?
It probably started about 3 or 4 years ago. I don't even remember the first night that I did it. I usually just have to waste time, like if the guitar is tuning or Jimmy needs a break or breaks a drum or something, I got to come up with these ideas that keeps the show flowing. So it just seemed like a common courtesy. If I go, thank you, to get the entire crowd to yell back, you're welcome. And it works like a charm every night.
It does. It does. Now, one of the things I loved when I looked at the album cover, I'm going to show you something. I have this signed album from 1989.
There you go.
With the stick figure. We got that in 1989. And I saw the album cover and I'm like, that's a throwback to your signature and the way you've always done that. So
I'm terrible. This would be my very first album art credit in my lifetime and my last, I'm sure. But I was trying to come up with a concept and none of the song titles really jumped out at me for being a title or an album concept for artwork. And I'm like, people want my autograph and they want that little stick guy. And I thought that would be the most generic, most adorable little album cover that I could come up with. So it took me 3 minutes to get a piece of paper, write my name at the top, draw the stick man in the middle, and you're welcome at the bottom. And they go, I love it.
To me, it just screams Steve Whiteman, your personality. Like I said, as soon as I saw the album cover, I was like, damn, that reminds me of the signature I got 40 or 30 years ago. So, so speaking of 40 years, I mean, you've been in the industry 40 years.
Don't tell anybody.
All right, our secret. Why now? Why a solo album now, Steve?
I mainly attribute it to COVID. I mean, just having the downtime and the free time to do it. And it all started with Jimmy Chalfant and Brad Divens they were doing cover songs in Brad's studio. He just wanted to get some experience working his studio he had all this new Pro Tools stuff and just wanted to learn how to use it better. So they were doing these cover songs and Jimmy just mentioned to him one day, he said, Steve's sitting on a batch of songs. Maybe we could get him in here and record some of these originals. And of course I jumped at that because I just didn't think that the Boys and KIX were ready to do a new album or really found this material to be KIX material. So, it was a perfect opportunity. It's a free recording. I mean, I couldn't go wrong. I couldn't turn it down. Right. So we went through the batch of 12 and Brad said, let's do them all. So that, that's, and we started working on this probably before Thanksgiving. And then unfortunately, midway through the recording, Brad Divens went in for a stress test, and 3 days later, he's getting a quadruple bypass in Bethesda Hospital. So we had a little bit of a break there, but luckily COVID continued on.
I don't think anybody said those words in the last year. Luckily, COVID continued on.
It's the only good thing to come out of COVID for me in the last year and a half. But yeah, it gave me the opportunity, and everybody seemed to really enjoy it. I got to reconnect with Brad Divens, who was on the Cool Kids album with KIX.
Exactly. Yep.
and he's been the front of house engineer for a lot of big bands, and he's currently out with Enrique Iglesias. So he's a pretty well-to-do guy. So getting the hook, and he's a great musician too. He got to play some rhythm guitar on this. He got to play a lot. He played all but 2 tracks of bass. Jimmy played all tracks but 2. I insisted on playing at least some of everything on it because I recorded all the demos.
Right.
I mean, I played everything.
Right. So let me just backtrack here for one moment. I know, like you said, Brad had, I think it was quadruple bypass surgery in December. How's he feeling? How's he doing now?
He's doing great.
Okay,
he's doing absolutely great. He come out of it like a champ, and he's had to change his lifestyle here and there, but for the most part, he feels healthier than ever.
That's awesome. That's great news. Happy to hear that. Now, like you said, you had these songs, 12 songs for the album. I believe you're the sole songwriter on all 12 songs. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Was there a lot of pressure for you to kind of come up with the goods, so to speak?
No, I mean, I started writing this stuff probably about 3 years ago, and the whole idea was to do just simple little 3-minute songs, not epics, not filled with leads and junk. And I always Steven Tyler said it best: "Don't bore us, get to the chorus." So I firmly believe in that. I love melody, I love harmony, and that's the kind of things that influenced me when I was a kid. Bands like Three Dog Night, the Doobie Brothers, Grand Funk Railroad, Deep Purple, Alice Cooper. There's so many, James Gang, so many of those bands influenced me. And what KIX has in common are Aerosmith influence, AC/DC, Zeppelin, Stone. So I got that too, but I've got a backlog of other influences that have a lot to do with my writing.
Yeah, that's, to me, one of the things, having heard the album, that sticks out to me. There's songs that have, I'll say, that KIX sound to them, or that Aerosmith, the Rolling Stones sound. Then there's other things that I say that would not be on a KIX album. Was that something that was important to you, being that this is a solo album?
Yes, I mean, it gave me the freedom to put it all out there. Whereas, if this was going to be a KIX album, they may have chosen 2 to 3 tracks, and the rest of it just would have, just gone to waste. So having the opportunity to get it out there, so let fans be the judge and see if they like it.
Sure. Now, for you, is there more or less pressure that it's a solo album, right? So you got all the decisions, right? So that's, on one hand, it's not a democracy here. What Steve says goes.
Right.
But on the other hand, it's your name out there, and there's no place to hide, so to speak. Is that
right.
more or less stress for you?
No, I don't even think about that. I've got great help with Madeline Scarpola and Julie Lichtenstein, and they're really guiding me along and helping me a lot on how to do this, because I had no clue as to how to put a record out. So they've been guiding me almost every day. And Julie's great, setting all these things up for me, getting the word out. Yeah. So my years in Funny Money convinced me that I don't think I'm going to lose money on this, and I'm going to get the music out to the fans. And if Funny Money would sell 1,500, 2,000 copies of a CD, then this should do as well. So I'm confident that it'll do at least that well.
Yeah, and that's one of the things in today's day and age. Like in the 80s, right, when you were putting out Blow My Fuse and those albums, if you weren't selling 1 million albums, it was a failure.
Exactly.
Right? Now, like you just said, a couple of thousand albums, and that's a huge success. So is that how are you going to measure success on this? Is it from the sales? Is it from some other method? I'll
measure it if I'm able to give Brad and Jimmy and Bob and Dean a little bit of cash for all the work and effort. That's how I'll judge it. So, and I'm pretty confident that'll happen. And there's even talk, if we would get some downtime, everybody got along so well and we enjoyed the song so much, there's even a chance, an outside chance, because KIX is going to be busy doing all these makeup shows, but to put the band around it with Dean and Bob and Brad, myself and Jimmy, and go out and do some shows and let people hear this stuff live.
Oh, that would be very exciting. I know last time we spoke, which is about 6 or 8 months ago, you understandably said, obviously KIX is the bread and butter.
Yeah.
I totally understand that.
Yeah.
And you mentioned how Funny Money, a lot of people were always interested in the KIX aspect. So if you did do any shows, would it be focused on these 12 songs?
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's great.
And I mean, if we had to kill a couple hours, we would probably throw in some of our favorite covers from the bands we grew up with. But yeah, it would be fun, and it wouldn't be our priority, but it would just be fun to go out and do when we had some downtime.
Sure, sure. Now you mentioned before that you played on the demos, and I think you played guitar and you played some bass. Last time you showed me actually the drum set that you had in the room that you
Right.
record demos. Are you playing drums at all on the album?
Yeah,
Awesome.
I played what did I play? I played Kid Dynamite and Strip.
Nice. Nice.
And I mean, Jimmy could have done them. Jimmy's a phenomenal drummer, but I just wanted to have my toes dipped in at least a couple of the tracks, saying I played everything on that song, and just let fans know that I'm more than just a singer.
That's awesome. And so you're also playing guitar and bass on some of the songs as well?
Yeah, I'm pretty much on rhythm guitar. I'm pretty much on every track, and I got to play bass on 2 tracks. It's been so long. I don't really remember. Shock. I did Shock, and I did another one. I don't remember which one.
That's awesome. You just mentioned Kid Dynamite, and I don't want to talk about the lyrics for a moment and what it's about.
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk about the song itself. Musically, it went from like the clean guitar to electric guitar. It was so well written to me. It had top 40 all over. If rock was played on the radio, it had top 40 written all over it. But rock's not on the radio, unfortunately,
No.
right? But what do you remember about the songwriting itself? That's that one.
That little melody, the intro melody, I was just playing around in a D chord, and I just took my index finger off and thought, oh, that's kind of nice. And I just kept playing with it until it turned into that opening riff. And then I thought, well, the second verse, I don't want to play the same thing. So then I added the harmony on top of it. And to me, it was almost like a Bruce Springsteen song,
Okay,
with
yeah.
just a real basic chord progression, and it tells a story. And I like songs that tell stories.
No, it definitely does tell a story. And so to that point, obviously the song is about Ronnie, right? So how is he feeling? How is he doing?
Ronnie I mean, he's in rehab. He's in recovery. He's under, I probably shouldn't say this, but he's under house arrest. That's why he's not out with us right now. He went through another bad time, and he's got to get it right this time. So in fairness to Brian, and in fairness to the fans that come out to the show, Brian didn't want to do it 4-piece anymore. So we invited Bob Perry to come in and fill in for Ronnie until he's ready to come back, physically fit and ready to go. So, and we got a great guy in Bob. He's an amazing player. He's a great guy, and we're lucky to have him.
Absolutely. Now, any idea when Ronnie will be ready to come back, or is that just open right now?
Yeah, it's open. We can't really put a time limit on it because it ideally is up to him.
Right. Right. Now, like you said, you have Bob in the band KIX right now. Bob's also on your solo album as well, right?
Yeah. Bob's everywhere. Bob plays with Mark and Sundogs, and he plays with a band called Ever Rise, which is a local band, cover band. And I've known him for years, and when Ronnie first started having problems, we were looking that way towards Bob. But Ronnie always sort of made it back, and so we never really had to make that change until now.
Right. I know as a longtime KIX fan, when I read that Ronnie wasn't going to be around for a little bit, my first thought was, I wonder if Brad will come back. Like you said, he was on Cool Kids. Was there ever any thought of that, or was it because of his heart thing that came up that wasn't even a consideration?
We never even talked about it, to tell you the truth, and it didn't even occur to me. But Brad's got a great gig. Sure. And I believe he's been on retainer for Enrique for pretty much this whole pandemic. So he's got a great gig to go back to. I don't think he would want to leave that to be a part-time guitar player for KIX.
That makes sense. Now, is that Bob that does the solo in Kid Dynamite? Because again, going back to that song for a moment, I just love that whole melody, the solo and everything.
Yeah. Bob did all the solos except on 4 songs, and Dean Kramer came in and played the last 4.
Okay. Awesome. Another standout track for me was Get the Wild Out, which I thought was really great. I loved it. It almost had a little bit of a throwback to like Get It While It's Hot to me, but not exactly,
I can see that.
Well, what do you remember about writing that song?
When I was teaching vocals, I was sitting with the student, and he said, "I'm getting married." And I said, "Good for you. I hope you got all the wildness out of you, because if you don't do it." And it just hit me right there. Get the wild out before you get into a serious relationship, because if you try it, it's going to fail. So, and then we just kind of laughed about it, and that idea just kept growing and growing and growing.
Right, right, very funny. Now another part of the album I loved, the song "Strip." At the end, like you think the song's over, and then all of a sudden it kind of throws you this curveball, which to me was really cool.
With the kazoos and the
Exactly. Is that who came up with that idea?
I did.
You
I
did?
thought, I mean, always, that was the big strip song in the 30s and 40s. That's what strippers would dance to. So
Sure.
pretty well-known association with the song title.
Right. Absolutely.
However,
Now,
the song title really isn't about taking off your clothes. It's about getting to know people in a new relationship. It's when people first get together, you kind of put up a facade and you're not really your whole self. And as time goes by, you get to know them better, and the layers come peeling off. So that's really what the song's about. But if you got a dirty mind, it's about taking your clothes off.
And some of your lyrics to me could always have that like double meaning, and that's one of the things I
Mhm.
always loved is that little sarcastic humor that you have, whether it's on stage or in the lyrics a little bit.
Yeah, both. One of my favorite lyricists of all time is Bon Scott, and
Okay.
nobody did it better than Bon Scott with the double entendres and the humor, and nobody has ever topped him. So he's a big influence on me.
That I could totally see that. Totally makes sense. On the album, what songs to you stand out as some of your favorites?
I like Strip a lot. I wrote that song probably about 10 years ago. It's just been
wow.
sitting around, and I've just been readdressing it, taking it apart and putting it back together, and go, there's something missing here. And it was always the verse. The verse just never worked until I think I got out Ragdoll one day. And
Okay.
the Aerosmith Ragdoll.
Sure.
And the chord changes. I used to just hang on one A chord throughout that whole verse, and I thought, no, this needs to move. And that's when the song went bing. So that's what made it work. I like Kid Dynamite a lot because it has a lot of meaning, and I wrote it for a reason. Bad Blood, I think, is a standout track. I think the KIX fans will go, okay, he can rock.
Right. Right. And that to me is one of the things I loved about the album. There's 12 songs. There's no filler. There's one song after another that's just a solid, great song. Like you said earlier that some of the songs you thought maybe only 3 would have made a KIX album. And I'm like,
Yeah.
How could that be? Now I know some of them stylistically might not be KIX.
Yeah, a song like "Do Me," I don't think would sound like it would be on a KIX album. I don't think "Kid Dynamite" would sound like it would be on a KIX album. There's several that "Love," or what is it? Which one is it? "Tug of Love."
Okay. To me, I think another one of the ones I loved was "Shock," which that to me also was not very kick sounding. Like, what was the influences for that type of song?
I remember we were listening to, I can't remember the name of it's from a KIX song that Donnie wrote.
Okay, interesting.
I can't remember the name of it offhand.
Oh no.
Basically, it's just about the beginnings of getting into a rock band, and you got these preconceptions of how you're going to address a crowd. Even before you get out in front of a crowd, you're like imagining what you're going to be like when you get out in front of that crowd, and that was the premise of the lyric. I can't remember the name of the KIX song. I have to get my KIX albums out.
It's a song on one of the albums, not an
Yeah, I mean, it was the influence. The groove of the song made me want to write something like that.
That's interesting because I heard that and I'm like, oh, this does not sound KIX-like to me. Like the first couple of songs, I hear KIX in them, and then Shock came, and I'm like, all right, that's a little bit of a curveball. But you're saying it was actually based off of another KIX song.
Yeah. Why can't I think of the name of the song? If I told you the name of the song, you would get it.
First album, second album, any clue?
I believe it's Show Business.
Oh, okay. Show Business, 911, Ball Baby, If You Run Around. There was the Fire Engine song or something like that. Off the top of my head, Book to Hypnotize. I know some Kicks fans that are watching this saying, Mike, you're leaving out A, B, C, and D, but I'm doing this off the top of my head on the spot here.
I hate that I can't think of it.
Well, we'll come back to it.
Okay.
One of the things also I love about the album is you're playing a lot of harmonica on this, right? And to me, I love that, if you go back to some of the earliest Kick songs, whether it's The Kid, Sex, you were always with the harmonica. And I love there's a lot of that on this album.
There is a lot. And reason being is I'm a really shitty lead guitar player. But I can't stand listening to a demo that has nothing on it, just those blank lead sections. So for the most part, I would play some scrappy leads, but most part I just use harmonica to fill those spots up. And when we were recording the record, I was saying, well, you're going to put a lead on this, right? And Bob would say, no, that sounds great the way it is. So okay. I was surprised that they liked all that harmonica that I did.
Yeah, no, to me, it kind of adds. It feels like Steve Whiteman to me. Like I said, it's one of the things I think of seeing Kicks in concert and you're playing harmonica. And to me, as soon as I heard the album, I'm like, yeah, that's Steve Whiteman to me. So,
right.
So the album itself actually comes out on July 2nd. And the same day, Kicks is playing the M3 Festival, headlining that, right? So, yeah. So talk about that a little bit and kind of getting back to M3 finally.
Oh, that's the biggest gig of our year. And, not being able to do it last year was a huge disappointment. It's the one time a year where we actually get the headline.
Right.
And it's only because of the great fans in the Baltimore, DC local area, because they've been following us for 40 years. And they're very proud of the fact that they can come see their favorite local band headline Merriweather at M3. So, it's a big show. It's one that I go into very nervous because I want to be good and I want to impress the local fans, and it's the biggest show of the year for us.
Right. And Kicks actually has a bunch of shows coming up on the calendar now, I think starting this week, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, we're actually leaving tomorrow for Denver, and then we're going to Dickinson, North Dakota. Then we're coming back and doing M3. We just got back from Texas. We did 2 shows in Texas, did a show in Florida. So things are starting to come back.
Nice.
Yeah.
Will there be more shows added during the course of the next couple of months?
Oh yeah. I think we only have 2 weekends off in the whole summer. I think we got some downtime in August for some vacation time.
Very good. That's happy to hear that. Now, of course, with the new Steve Whiteman album coming out, fans, Steve, they always want more. The fans are going to start saying, well, what about a Kicks album? What about a Kicks album?
To make a Kicks album, it costs a lot of money. It's a whole lot of work. And as much as you hate to say it, we're not a rich band. I mean, it's not like we have money to burn. So it's got to make financial sense as well as something for the fans. I mean, we love creating the new music, but if you're going to lose a whole bunch of money on it, then you got to examine, all the ins and outs, ups and downs, and is it worth it?
Right.
And right now we're playing like 2 songs off the Rock Your Face Off album, which is not bad considering the catalog of music that we have, and the fans really seem to like the 2 that we're doing.
Yep. It's like you said before, the 1995 album you put out, show business.
Yeah,
and it is a business, right? And
exactly.
You're not out there to lose money. So
exactly. I mean, bands like Cheap Trick, I don't know how they do it. They put an album out every year, and it's great. I've never heard them put out a bad record. And other bands just like, what's the point? Radio's not going to play it. It's hard to even get it. If I didn't listen to Eddie Trump's podcast, I wouldn't even know new music because you don't hear about it other than people like you. And, outlets like you alert the fans that, hey, there's something new out there.
Yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate that. And, it's like I said before with a song like Kid Dynamite, when I hear that, I'm like, man, if this was 1988, this would be all over the radio, right? It's just that type of song.
Yeah.
But today, just, Gene Simmons always says rock is dead. And what are your thoughts on something like that?
No, it's not dead. It's alive and well as far as getting out in front of crowds, and live music is alive and well. And there are some new young bands coming up that are reviving it and keeping it around. So I wouldn't say rock is dead, but I'd say radio is trying to kill it because they're not any help at all anymore.
That's true. And obviously there's not a medium like MTV that helped so many of the bands in the 80s as well.
Right.
You know,
Yeah, absolutely. That was a big one for us.
without a doubt. When you look at something like recording this new solo album and you compare it to recording the first Kix album,
Mhm.
what's it like for you? What's the differences there for
There's no comparison.
you?
There's no comparison. That
How's it
first
different?
that first Kicks album was already written. There was nothing written in the studio. We'd made those demos and we've been playing it live for a couple of years. So, it was in and going bang, 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 bang. And just the whole being in New York City and seeing this console that was as big as my living room and working with Tom Allum. And I mean, and this record was nothing like that. I mean, all the demos I wrote at home, they were all finished and completed, and going to Brad's. And Jimmy had to do most of the drums virtual. He did them from his house and sent them to Brad. And I did all the vocals for my house and sent them to Brad. So it was done in a very different way.
Sure, sure. No, I find that very fascinating. Now, I know the last couple of years you guys have put out deluxe editions of Blow My Fuse, of Midnight Dynamite. Any plans to do any other deluxe editions? I think Hotwire's got an anniversary coming up in a few months.
If there's
In a month.
Yeah, Mark loves to do that stuff. He got his hands on the masters, and we have Bo Hill, who's a great friend. And Bo actually come up with the idea of redoing Midnight Dynamite just because he was the original producer, and he said, I would like to have another crack at that. He did so well on the Blow My Fuse relit, and he loved doing it. And he said, let's do it again with Midnight Dynamite. And we thought, Bo Hill wants to remix it, go for it, because it don't cost nothing. So,
Right.
and what he did is he cleaned it up just like he did on Blow My Fuse, because back then everything was just effects. Everything had effects on it, and Bo went in and cleaned it up and just brought the vocals up and made everything just out front and enhanced, and not too much reverb, not too much echo, and really made it sound great.
Oh, that's awesome. I know the answer to this question, but I have to ask because I'm a diehard fan for years, right? So when I heard you working with Brad, and obviously Jimmy's on the album as well, my first thought is, I love the Cool Kids album. Is there ever a chance I could hear Get Your Monkeys Out live in concert?
No.
I told you I knew the answer, but I have to ask. Oh, man.
When we did play that song, I used to have this stuffed monkey that I would bring out and beat the hell out of it. So that was the way we could get that song over. And we had to do something visual because the fans just like, what the hell is that song?
For whatever reason, it's always been like one of those like dark horse, like deep cut favorites.
Yeah.
But I told you I knew the answer before I asked the question. But if I don't ask you, who else could I ask, right?
Exactly. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, there you go. And I always appreciate that. So obviously the album's coming out in a week or so. I know we were talking about you'd love to do some shows. Any chance you'd ever maybe open for Kix, or is that just too much singing in one night for you?
That's too much singing. I'm old.
How do you keep your voice still sounding so good? Because that's one of the things, you listen to this album and your voice just sounds really great on it.
Well, thank you. Actually, I think this rest from COVID has helped a lot. And when you get older, your voice does deteriorate. There's not a singer out there that can't say my voice is like it was when I was in its 20s, because that's BS.
Of course,
it doesn't happen. So I took advantage of this time to do some therapy for my voice, and I did some virtual visits with the doctor. And I think between that and getting some proper rest has kept me going. And plus, I taught vocals for 25 years, so that kept me strong too.
Without a doubt. Now I know the new thing that all artists seem to be doing is they release their albums on vinyl. Is that something that's going to be available for this? Do you know?
I have a friend that owns a vinyl shop, and I gave him first dibs and said, "You want to do it? Go for it." So yeah, it'll be available. I don't have the exact address, but it's a shop called The Head, and it's at the Maryland Institute of Music. So and that's where I used to teach. The guy's name is Rick Parks. So he's taking care of all that, but he will definitely have it out there.
Awesome. Any idea, a timeline of when that would be?
No idea, because there's such a backlog of people wanting to put vinyl out now because it's so popular.
Yep.
So I don't know exactly what the timeline would be.
Okay, fair enough. And where could people find the album? I'm assuming all the regular outlets, but where could they find it when it gets released on the 2nd?
It's going to be, I got it written down. It's if you want to pre-order it, you can go to Right Rock, RIGHT Rock, rightrocksportswear.com/kicks/Steve-your-welcome. So if I think you just go to the Right Rock Sportswear site, you'll be able to find it from there, and you can pre-order it now.
Awesome. And it's on CD and available on July
Yep.
2nd. Like I said, I've heard it. It sounds phenomenal. I think Kicks fans are going to love it. Rock fans are going to love it, right? Even
I
if
hope so.
for some reason, if you weren't a Kicks fan, give this a listen because you're going to like this. This is some good stuff on this album.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Anything else you want the fans to know about this record, Steve, before we wrap up?
Just a thousand thank yous to Jimmy Chalfant and Brad Divins and Bob Perry and Dean Kramer for being a part of it and making it fun and making it possible, because without those guys, it would never have happened. So I'm just truly grateful to those guys.
That's awesome. And Steve, I'll close again by once more saying thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
You're welcome.
Awesome. Everybody check out the new Steve Whiteman solo CD. You're going to love it. Steve, thanks again for joining me. Everybody, take it easy. Have a good one.
Peace.
Peace. Thanks, Steve. Alrighty, there you have it. I'd like to thank Steve for joining me once again on my podcast and talking all about his exciting new solo CD coming out called You're Welcome. That album's going to be released on July 2nd, and I know you guys are going to really love it. I can't wait for you all to hear it. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button below. If you're listening to one of my podcasts, subscribe over there as well. Also, head on over to Facebook and follow my page, The Rock Experience with Mike Brunn, where each and every day we talk about all the rock and roll music that you love. You should also follow me on Instagram and Twitter as well. That's it for this episode. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you all next time.